A very good morning to you. I've often said that the Bible is full of promises, and it is. It's full of promises, and we can take the promises of God for ourselves, claim them for ourselves. This book was written to help you and I through our life. And I'm looking at a little passage in John 6, 35 to 40. This little passage, Jesus begins by saying, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. Now, of course, he's not talking about ordinary hunger and thirsting. He's not talking about physical bread. He's talking about the bread of life. And so what does that mean? Well, what do we think of as bread in ordinary life? In ordinary life, bread is a staple of the diet. Bread is eaten at almost every meal, certainly every day for most people. Bread is the sustainer, one of the great sustainers of life. And so what Jesus is saying is that his spiritual life is sustained through him. He is the one who provides the essentials of life, bread and water. He doesn't say, I'm the water of life, but he says here, I'm the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. The two things that we need for physical life are food and water. And the things we need for the spiritual life are supplied totally in Jesus. We'll never want anything else apart from Jesus. This is very important because down through the centuries there have always been people who have said, I've got something to tell you that is not contained in the New Testament or the Old Testament. God has given me a special revelation that adds to what you know that you need for your life. And it's a lie. Many people have been distracted from the true gospel because they've met or seen or heard somebody who says, well, this is not in what Jesus taught or what the apostles taught. This is something, a special revelation that I've had. And this is something you need to take on board. Well, don't do it. Don't add to the gospel. Jesus himself said, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. And he was talking to people who Jesus himself said, I said to you that you've seen me and yet do not believe. All of the Father gives me will come to me, and he who comes to me I will not cast out. Those who come to Jesus he welcomes with open arms. He does not reject anyone who turns to him in faith and says, thank you for what you did for me. I realize that everything I need in life is in you, and I'm coming to you to ask that you give it to me. And he goes on to say, for I've come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing of all that he's given me, but raise it up at the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. This is the most amazing thing, that those who come to Jesus, even if their earthly, physical life ends, they will be raised to life, just as Jesus was raised to life and came out of the tomb, was seen by many. Those who believe in Jesus will be raised up at the end of time. When Jesus returns, we will all stand in his presence in new bodies, just as he stood in his resurrection body, the body that had suffered so much, was resurrected and given life, and it is still alive today in heaven, seated at the right hand of God the Father. There's a man in heaven, the first of those raised from the dead. Death has been destroyed, and eternal life has been begun for all of us who've placed our trust in Jesus. We have started eternal life. And that eternal life, like the physical life, needs feeding and watering. And Jesus has provided us with everything that we need to keep our spiritual bodies healthy, our spiritual person healthy. He is the bread. He is the white water. He is the one to whom we go for all that we need to sustain us in our walk through this life until we reach the other side. And then we will have a new body that has exchanged corruption for incorruptibility and will live forever in God's presence. It's wonderful. The gospel is such good news. We don't need to fear death. We don't need to fear anything, because we have a God who cares for us, and Jesus will never let go of us. He will keep what the Father has given to him until the last day. That's John 6:35 to 40. What a wonderful thought for the day. Have a great day. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.